There's a kind of silence that settles just before a camera shutter clicks. A stillness that sharpens everything. That's what I remember most. Not Haley's voice. Not the way she tilted her chin slightly away from me like I was glare on glass. But that silence. Right before she said it. He's not family. 3 words. No eye contact. No hesitation. Just thrown out casually, like a coat onto a chair, while the photographer adjusted his lens. Pause, a rustle of fabric. The sound of Kelly adjusting her dress strap. Not in protest. Not even in surprise. Just casually, as if that sentence had settled the matter. As if she was saying, he doesn't need to be in this sh*t. And then her nod, slight, complicit, final. I stepped back. A single step. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. Out of clarity. I wasn't in the picture. The photographer didn't look up. Who's confirming the final package? He asked, with the voice of a man who already knew who held the purse strings. That sentence echoed longer than Haley's did. Confirming. I was confirming the florist. Confirming the bakery. Confirming the goddamn porta-potties for the overflow guests. My bank account had become the glue for every part of their celebration. But now, standing outside the frame, I finally saw what I was really funding. Not a wedding, not a union. A reunion. Haley and her mother. Her real father standing somewhere nearby in his rental suit. And me? I was the scaffolding. Necessary for construction. Ugly once the pictures were taken. That evening, we drove home in silence. Kelly said something about needing to adjust the seating chart. Something about Haley's cousin's girlfriend who couldn't sit too close to the cake because of an allergy. She poured herself a glass of wine. She asked me which color linen better suited the theme. Slate gray or ivory mist. Ivory mist. That's what I said. But what I wanted to say was, I saw you. I saw the way you didn't look at me. I saw how easy it was for you to let me vanish from that moment. How natural it was to let her words become truth without a whisper of resistance. But I didn't speak. There's a point in every man's life when he realizes silence isn't peace. It's permission. That night I gave mine. She hummed as she floated through the kitchen, sampling hors d'oeuvres, making small notes on her phone. Something about chairs. Something about napkin folds. Haley was in the other room FaceTiming her friends, laughing about the rehearsal, already calling it their day, their, not ours, not mine. I stared at the wineglass in my hand, not drinking, just watching the way the light bent through it, how easily the shape distorted depending on the angle. I'd been staring through glass for years, hadn't I? Watching the lives they lived, paying for the lights that illuminated their scenes, holding up the walls they leaned against, but never once starring in it. The first time I met Haley, she was 14. She barely looked up from her phone. Kelly had assured me it was normal that teenagers were like that. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. The first birthday I paid for, Haley asked if her real dad could still come, just for the candle part. She said it without malice, without hesitation, as if the man who disappeared every holiday could just show up for the last 10 minutes and that would be enough. Kelly looked at me. I said yes. I always said yes. Yes to braces. Yes to dance class. Yes to private SAT tutoring. Yes to the $400 emergency dress that had to be overnight before junior prom. And when I dared to ask why Travis, the biological father, hadn't chipped in, Haley rolled her eyes and said, "He's busy. You care, don't you?" I did, and that was the problem. I cared more than anyone else in that house. I was the first one up every morning. I was the one tightening the leaking faucet while Haley scrolled through Instagram reels in the next room. I was the one reconfiguring our monthly budget so she could have the extra photography package with vintage filters and a drone. I was the one who paid the deposit on the venue while Travis sent emojis in the family group chat. I should have known my role. I wasn't family. I was the invisible thread that held their illusion together. They didn't see me. Not really. They saw the meals on the table. They saw the lights always on. They saw the trips, the cars, the shoes that were always replaced before the soles wore thin. They saw the results. Never the hands that made them possible. So when Haley said, "He's not family," she wasn't being cruel. She was telling the truth. And Kelly, the woman I thought I married, didn't challenge it. She didn't say, "Yes, he is." She didn't say anything at all. Because in that moment, the truth revealed itself. She agreed. She had always agreed. Silently, softly, passively. In the same way she always stepped between us when Haley rolled her eyes or ignored me. In the same way she brushed off every sharp word with a laugh, a shrug, a sigh. In the same way she turned to me only when something broke, when something cost, when something required time, effort, money. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in my office and stared at the wedding planner's email. The subject line, "Final confirmation needed." Excited to move forward. They were excited. I was confirming. I hovered my cursor over the line item for the rehearsal dinner. $2,750. Haley had insisted on a private chef experience. "It'll be more int asterisk mate," she'd said. I nodded. Kelly had kissed my cheek like it was a reward. But now all I saw was a list of expenses masquerading as affection. A ledger of loyalty that had only ever gone one way. Every smile, every hug, every thank you, all dependent on the next payment. I closed the laptop. I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. Still full of tiny tarts and chilled champagne. Kelly had labeled them, "Do not touch," for Saturday. I reached in, took one of the tarts, sat at the table and ate it slowly. Tasted like lemon. Sweet, tart, perfectly balanced. But it wasn't mine. Nothing in that fridge, nothing in that house, nothing in that family was ever really mine. They were rehearsing a wedding, and I was rehearsing my exit. I sat in the dark. The email was still open on my screen. Final confirmation needed. The planner's exclamation mark taunted me like a child's drawing of joy. Meaningless. The list of charges glowed cold. Venue, catering, florist, photography, live string quartet, signature cocktails. All of it. Mine. Not in spirit. Not in gratitude. Just in dollars. There's a kind of silence that happens when you know something is ending. Not violently, but absolutely. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even speak. I just moved my cursor to the top of the planner's email chain and started scrolling backwards through the months. Every decision, every adjustment, every payment. Me. My name on every confirmation. My signature on every line. My bank account behind every wish. And now I was out of the photo. I opened the bank app. There were 5 pending charges scheduled to process that weekend. The florist's final delivery. The caterer's headcount confirmation. The string quartet's travel fee. The tip envelope for the bridal stylist. The drone operator's second half of the payment. It wasn't the money. It was the disrespect that it purchased. Click. 1 cancellation. Click. 2. Click. By the third one, my heart had slowed into something quiet and steady. A rhythm I hadn't felt in years. Not rage. Not grief. Control. That's what it felt like. By the time I canceled the final invoice, I wasn't trembling. I wasn't second-guessing. I was remembering. All the moments I'd swallowed. The smirks, the dismissals, the silences that followed every effort I made to belong. Haley had drawn the line at the rehearsal. "He's not family." Fine. I believed her. By morning, the calls started. First, Kelly. A soft, half-asleep voice. "Did something happen with the planner?" She said payment didn't go through. I didn't lie. "I canceled it." A pause. Her tone sharpened. "What do you mean, you canceled it?" "I mean what it sounds like." Her breath caught. "Michael, this is Haley's wedding." "I know. I don't understand." "You do." Silence. She didn't call back right away. Then Haley. I let it go to voicemail. The message came in under a minute later. Breathless. High-pitched. Panicked. "The florist says it's all off." "What did you do?" "You had no right to do this. You ruined everything. We had a plan. You can't just pull out like that. It's ours." Ours. That word again. I deleted the message. The wedding planner called next. Her tone was tight, forced professionalism straining under panic. Hi, Michael. I just wanted to follow up again. We're under the 72-hour window now and the vendors they're nervous. I really need confirmation today so we don't start losing components. Please give me a call, even a quick text. I didn't respond. That afternoon, Kelly came home from work early. I was on the back porch. Coffee. Quiet. The fall wind had started to bite. She didn't sit. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her voice low. You can't just cancel someone's wedding. I met her eyes. Calm. I didn't cancel anyone's wedding. I canceled the part one was funding. That's the same thing. No, it's not. Michael, we have guests flying in. We have a timeline. You have. She blinked. You and Haley. You had a wedding. You made decisions. You invited people. You set the terms. I just paid. That's not fair. Isn't it? Her jaw clenched. She's young. She didn't mean it like that. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then why didn't you say anything? What? Yesterday, when she said it, to the photographer, that I'm not family. Why didn't you correct her? I didn't want to make a scene. You didn't want to lose the sh*t. She flinched. That was the truth and we both knew it. I've paid for every piece of this circus, I said quietly. And when the camera came up, you let her decide I didn't belong. Kelly stepped back inside. That night, the silence between us was heavier than usual. She cooked. Barely. Haley didn't come by. The house felt paused. Like everyone was waiting for someone else to blink first. But I didn't blink. I slept fine. By the next day, panic had turned to damage control. Texts came in from Kelly's sister, from Haley's friends. One even from Travis, the biological dad, which surprised me. He'd never texted me before. Hey man, heard there's been some hiccups. Let's talk, figure it out. I didn't respond, because what was there to talk about? They'd built a ceremony around exclusion, and assumed I'd keep paying for my own erasure. I was the man behind the curtain, always expected to pull the levers, never allowed on stage. But not anymore. By that afternoon, the planner sent a final message. We're losing vendors. Can you at least confirm the venue? I didn't. Later that night, Kelly confronted me again. But this time, she was trembling. You don't understand, she said, voice cracking. It's not just about money. This is her future. This is her day. People will ask questions. People will wonder. They'll wonder why her mother stood by and let the man who paid for everything be erased. Her face hardened. You're punishing her for not being yours. That line. That we *p*n. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. No, I said. I'm punishing myself for pretending I ever was. That shut her up. Because we both knew. This wasn't about biology. It was about loyalty. And when the moment came, she chose her daughter's comfort over my dignity. The next morning, the spiral accelerated. The caterer dropped out. The florist posted publicly that they were now re-available for the weekend. Haley sent a mass text, not to me, but to the group thread titled Wedding A-Team. Having to pivot due to financial hiccups. We're moving the wedding. More details soon. Pivot. Like this was some creative project, not a life I had funded to the bone. They still didn't understand. They thought I'd come around, that I'd feel guilty, that I'd eventually step back in, wallet first, and rescue the illusion. But something had broken, and not just my patience, my role, my belief, my willingness to carry a house of cards that had always collapsed the moment it was tested. That evening, Kelly and I sat in the living room. The TV was on. Neither of us watched. She finally broke the silence. She's devastated. I'm not surprised. She's scrambling to find a new venue. The cake decorator backed out. They're moving it to her friend's backyard. I nodded. She's never seen you like this. She's never looked at me. A long pause. Then Kelly asked, soft, almost cautious, is there anything you need to feel better about this? I turned to her. An apology. From Haley? From you. Her breath caught. But she didn't speak, didn't say the word, and that was when I knew she never would. because saying sorry would mean acknowledging what she allowed, what she condoned, what she benefited from, and guilt, real guilt, requires the loss of comfort. She wasn't ready to pay that price. But I was, and I had paid more than enough. The collapse happened quietly, not like a crash, more like a house losing power room by room. The flick of one switch, then another, until the place is dark and no one remembers how it ever felt warm. They scrambled, of course. Kelly started making calls. Haley cried into speakerphone. Someone suggested moving the ceremony to a local park. Someone else offered their backyard. Haley said no. She wouldn't downgrade. Not after all the Pinterest boards, the vision boards, the mood boards. She said it like we were in negotiations, not consequences. I sat at the kitchen counter and watched the family chat fill with last-minute substitutions. Any folding chairs we can borrow? Does anyone have a Bluetooth speaker? Is Haley okay with store-bought cupcakes? Backup plan. Travis has a canopy tent in his garage. I didn't offer a single word. I wasn't asked. But I read every message. And I waited for someone, anyone, to say what needed to be said. We did this to him. We pushed him out. We treated him like furniture. And now we're shocked he walked. But no. What I got was a string of euphemisms. Unexpected change of plans. Last-minute budget pivot. A hiccup with the planner. A hiccup. Like my withdrawal was some scheduling error. Some clerical mistake. Not the consequence of years of erasure stacked high and deep. The wedding did happen, barely. I watched it unfold the way a stranger watches a train in the distance. Curious, but not concerned. Someone's backyard like they threatened. Folding chairs set up in haphazard rows on uneven grass. A string of paper lanterns sagging under the weight of their own optimism. No band, no quartet, just an old Bluetooth speaker clipped to a gutter. Haley wore the dress I'd paid for. Kelly wore the shoes I bought last Christmas. They both smiled like nothing was wrong. And Travis, biological father, absentee ghost, stood beside Haley under the makeshift arbor like he'd been there the whole time. He even gave a short speech. Something about how proud he was to walk her down the aisle. His voice cracked on the last line. People clapped. They clapped. I watched the filtered Instagram stories from the couch in my office. No invitation, no warning. Just clips fed to the public as if they told the whole truth. But I saw it all. I saw the cousin holding an iPhone at shoulder height, struggling to keep the frame steady. I saw the dollar store napkins sliding off plastic plates. I saw Kelly's smile twitch when the speaker crackled mid-vow. And I saw Haley lean into Travis like he'd always been the anchor, not the wreckage. The lie was complete. And it didn't matter. Because for people like them, optics matter more than origin. They stitched together a version of the day that looked decent in photos, and that was enough. It always was. 2 days later, Kelly came home late. I was in the living room. Same place. Same chair. She walked past me. Slow and measured. Like I was a patient in a hospital she didn't want to disturb. No words. Not then. But the next morning, there was a note on the kitchen table. Not a conversation. Not a letter. A note. For sentences. Haley and I are taking a break. We need space. Don't contact us for now. I'll send for what I need. Signed, Kelly. No explanation. No apology. No attempt to bridge the gap. Just silence. And space. I stood there with the paper in my hand for a long time. Long enough for the coffee to burn in the pot. Long enough for the mail to arrive. Long enough for the weight in my chest to settle into something like acceptance. They were gone. And the house was quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. Just still. I walked through the rooms like I was touring a memory. The throw blanket she always used was still folded on the armrest. Haley's old sneakers sat by the front door, dirty laces twisted into knots. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, still clinging to the hallway like it had nowhere else to go. It hit me then, just how much of myself I had poured into this place, this family. Every shelf, every fixture, every minor upgrade I'd made with my own hands. And for what? So I could be told at the end of it all that I was not family, that I had no place in the photo, that my presence was optional, but my money was required. I sat on the edge of the bed and remembered the first time I gave Haley a ride to school. She was 15. Her dad had bailed last minute again, and Kelly was stuck in a meeting. She sat in my passenger seat with her arms folded, eyes glued to her phone, and said, without looking up, "Don't talk, just drive." So I did. I drove her to school. I picked her up. I did it again the next day, and the next. She never said thank you. She never even called me by name. I was just him, a non-person, but I kept showing up. I kept thinking, if I stay consistent, they'll see. If I give enough, they'll understand. If I love enough, they'll love me back. I was wrong, because it was never about how much I gave. It was about what they were willing to receive. And they had made up their minds long before the first deposit, long before the first argument, long before the wedding was even an idea. I was never part of their story. I was the checkbook in the margins. The aftermath came in waves. First was the silence, the texts that didn't arrive, the phone calls that never came. Then came the social posts. Haley resharing the backyard photos with captions like, "Magical day," and "Everything happens for a reason." Then came the stories from mutual friends, whispered cautiously. I heard Kelly moved in with her sister. Travis is staying around for a bit, helping them regroup. They're trying to make the best of it. But no one, not once, asked what it cost me. Because from the outside, I was just the man who stepped back. No one saw that I had spent years being stepped over. The house stayed clean longer after they left. Quieter. Still, in a way that made the evenings feel hollow. I found myself cooking too much food, turning on the hallway light out of habit, sitting on the couch and waiting for a voice I knew wasn't coming back. And yet, for all the emptiness, there was clarity. They had made a choice. So had I. It was the first time in years I had made one for myself. I walked through the house and started reclaiming it. Not with anger, with precision. I boxed up the dresses, the hair products, the leftover decor. I deleted the wedding planner's contact. I cleared the calendar of every fake obligation that had been pinned to me. And then I opened a window, let the air in, let the space breathe, because something in me, something old, something buried, had started to resurface. Not joy, not hope, dignity. It doesn't roar. It doesn't burn. It settles. Slowly, quietly, like a man sitting down after years of standing alone. I didn't hear from Kelly again. Not directly. A mutual friend said she might reach out when things calmed down. But I already knew. Things were calm now. The storm had passed. The wave had crested. And the silence that followed wasn't absence. It was freedom. And maybe, just maybe, that's what I needed all along. The note stayed on the table all morning. I didn't crumple it. Didn't tear it up. Didn't chase after the car when I heard it pull out of the driveway. I just stood there, reading the same 4 sentences over and over, like repetition might reveal a hidden apology between the lines. Didn't. Haley and I are taking a break. We need space. Space. Such a clean word. So forgiving. As if distance, not damage, was the problem. As if time, not truth, would heal what had finally been exposed. I folded the note once, then again, set it beside my keys, and I sat down. The house sounded different without them. Not quieter, emptier. The kind of emptiness that rings in your ears. The refrigerator hummed too loudly. The clock on the wall felt accusatory. Every second another reminder that I was still here while they had already moved on. I replayed it all, start to finish. The photo. The nod. The step back. The word family used like a locked door. I thought about how easily Kelly had left. No fight. No confrontation. No attempt to understand what had finally broken inside me. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask if I regretted it. She didn't ask anything at all. Because asking would mean acknowledging that I mattered. Instead, she chose motion, distance, retreat. And in that choice, she confirmed what I'd already learned. I was useful, not necessary. Valuable, but replaceable. A role, not a person. By afternoon, the house was still. Sunlight crept across the floor, touching the places where Haley's bags used to sit, where Kelly's shoes were always kicked off without thought. I noticed things I hadn't before. Small cracks in the wall, a loose hinge on the pantry door. Evidence of time passing without permission. I opened a window. Cool air rushed in, sharp and honest. It didn't ask me to stay quiet. It didn't ask me to understand. It just entered, unapologetic. I breathed it in. That night, I slept alone for the first time in years. Not on the edge of the bed. Not waiting for someone else's comfort. I slept in the center, arms loose, breathing slow. I woke up before the alarm and realized something unsettling. I wasn't anxious. No dread. No guilt. No urge to check my phone. Just stillness. Over the next few days, messages trickled in. Mutual friends testing the water. Kelly's sister hinting that everyone was emotional. Someone suggested therapy. Someone else suggested I reach out first. I didn't, because reaching out would mean reopening a door that had finally closed on its own. And I had spent too many years holding doors open for people who walked through without looking back. A week passed, then another. No apology came. Not from Haley. Not from Kelly. And that silence answered the last question I'd been avoiding. If they were sorry, they would have said it. If they missed me, they would have reached out. If I had ever truly been family, I wouldn't have been so easy to leave behind. So I made my choice permanent. I changed my accounts, redirected my income, canceled shared plans that no longer existed. I packed away the remnants of a life that had been built on compromise and quiet endurance. I didn't do it with anger. I did it with resolve. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the house filled with amber light, I sat on the couch and thought about the question that had followed me through all of this. Was I wrong? Wrong for stepping back when I was pushed out? Wrong for closing my wallet when my presence no longer counted? Wrong for refusing to fund a life that didn't want me in the frame? I thought about the years, the sacrifices, the way I'd shrunk myself to fit into spaces where I was never meant to belong. And I realized something simple, something final. Love without respect isn't love. It's labor. And I was done working for free. They called it disappearance. They called it abandonment. They called it pride. But I call it choosing myself. So tell me, if you had stood where I stood, heard what I heard, watched yourself erased in real time, would you have stayed? Or would you have finally walked away, quietly, and let the silence speak for you?